Respect Missouri Voters is a volunteer-led, grassroots campaign with a mission to ensure that we, the voters, remain as a check and balance on the government and stop politicians from taking away voter power. We are made up of everyday Missourians like you and me, and we're not affiliated with any political party. Let's talk about the initiative petition process in Missouri, what it is, how it works, how it's been under attack by our own representatives, and what Respect Missouri Voters is doing to preserve and strengthen this century-old freedom. If you've ever voted in Missouri, you've seen questions like these on your ballot. Proposition A, or Constitutional Amendment 1, and Missourians get to decide yes or no when we go to vote. This is what it looks like on your ballot, and these are some common terms people use to refer to these types of questions. Citizen initiative, ballot initiative, ballot measure, initiative petition, which is the legal term for the process. So how do these questions get onto your ballot? There are two ways that these questions get onto your ballot. The legislature puts most of them there, but a few are put there by citizens working together towards a common goal. When politicians ignore what voters and our families want, citizen-led petitions let Missourians act as a check on the government. Partisan politicians write the summaries that you see on your ballot for both. More on that in a moment. Let's dive into how a citizen initiative petition qualifies for your ballot and passes. It's three basic steps. Write a law or amendment, collect enough valid signatures to qualify for the ballot, get voters to vote yes. Unfortunately, in the middle of this process, the partisan Secretary of State writes the ballot summary. To stop an initiative that is popular from passing, politicians often use deceptive ballot language to sway our votes. Historically, a lawsuit could lead the courts to rewrite the ballot language to be fair, accurate, and unbiased. In 2025, the legislature passed Senate Bill 22, which made the process of challenging ballot language in court lengthy and much more difficult. This year, the Missouri State Supreme Court struck this down on a procedural technicality, and politicians immediately started work to replace it. We can't expect politicians to stop trying to make the process more difficult and confusing for the voters. Getting a citizen initiative on the ballot in Missouri is already one of the most strenuous grassroots undertakings in the country. It requires over 170,000 highly verified unique signatures from registered Missouri voters, strict geographic distribution targets across at least 6 of Missouri's 8 congressional districts. Targets are based on the number of votes cast in the last election for governor, 5% for laws or statutes, and 8% for amendments. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal, logistics, and organizing costs. Thousands of hours of labor from hundreds or even thousands of volunteers. Because of these high hurdles, most citizen petitions that are filed never make the ballot. The few that do survive represent issues with massive public support from across the state. The initiative petition process is just the first step, getting on the ballot. It doesn't actually enact the law. Once citizens gather enough verified signatures to qualify, the proposal goes to a statewide public vote. The ultimate power remains with the voters on Election Day, so the voters have the final say. As we've just seen, getting an initiative petition onto the ballot isn't easy. Yet politicians still don't want voters to have the power to be a check on their control and to hold them accountable. So they have a big bag of tricks that they use to attack the will of the people. Deceiving. Partisan politicians intentionally try to confuse voters with misleading ballot summaries and ballot candy. Remember, politicians write the summaries that we see on our ballots. Many voters are basing their decision to vote yes or no on this summary alone. Ballot candy is a common tactic used to sweeten the deal for legislative measures that are unpopular. One of the bullet points voters see on the ballot will be something popular that, many times, is already in law to hide the true consequence and entice Missourians to vote yes. For citizen-led initiative petitions that are popular, we often see confusing technical jargon or a misrepresentation of what a measure would actually accomplish. Overturning. The state legislature can overturn laws passed by the people with a simple majority vote in Jefferson City without any further input from the voters. They can also send amendments passed by the people back to the ballot with a simple majority in the legislature. Then they use deceptive ballot summaries to trick voters into overturning something they just approved. Attacking. All these political games are costly. Wouldn't it be easier to just put an end to the process entirely? Politicians of both parties have been attempting to kill our power to use the initiative petition for decades, and they're getting dangerously close to succeeding. Looking back, attacks on the power of the initiative petition are not new, and they are not partisan. In the 1980s, under Democratic legislative control, voters passed the Hancock Amendment to limit taxes. After the Hancock Amendment passed, the Democrat-led General Assembly tried to restrict citizen initiatives. Republican Governor John Ashcroft vetoed that legislative bill, defending ballot initiatives as a crucial voter freedom. He criticized politicians who attempted to take away voter power. It's happening again today under the current supermajority. When politicians backed by special interests don't like what the people vote for, they try to take away our power. Amendment 4 will be on our ballots in the August 4th primary. For the last 118 years, citizen-led initiatives have passed by earning a statewide majority of yes votes. Under Amendment 4, amendments proposed by citizens would need to get a majority vote in all 8 of Missouri's congressional districts. There is no other state that requires such a high bar for citizen-initiated amendments. It would make it nearly impossible for citizens to exercise our freedom to petition by setting up a single district veto in which the no votes in one district would count for more than a statewide majority of yes votes. An amendment could fail even if it earns a majority of yes votes. Think about it this way. The main rule of baseball is simple. Whichever team scores the most runs wins. It's pretty clear that Team 1 is the winner here. They completely outplayed Team 2. They scored more runs and won 8 of 9 innings. But now let's change the rules to mirror Amendment 4's all-district requirement. Under the new rules, Team 1 loses because they did not score more runs in the 6th inning. Same game, same score, different outcome. Voting in our state is simple, too. Whichever side earns the most votes wins. But when politicians don't get the outcomes that they want, instead of enacting popular policies and representing the will of the majority, they try to change the rules and take away voter power. Here's a real example. A voter-approved tax cap that passed in 2016. The measure won by more than 375,000 votes statewide. But it lost the 1st Congressional District, anchored in St. Louis and the northern suburbs of St. Louis County, by roughly 31,500 votes. Under Amendment 4, that single district would have blocked a measure approved by a clear majority of 375,218 more yes than no votes. This is just one example from the last 10 years. They've already tried to mislead us on this using one of their 3 favorite tricks, ballot candy. The original ballot summary, written by politicians, made it seem like this vote is about foreign money in state campaigns and petition fraud. Both are already illegal in Missouri. Thanks to that state Supreme Court ruling earlier this year throwing out SB 22, citizens still have the ability to use lawsuits to ask the courts to revise ballot summaries to be fair, and in this case, the courts have revised the language we'll see on our ballots. What you see here is the ballot summary that will appear on your ballot after it was rewritten by the courts. But it still shows politicians' disdain for majority rule and their intent to mislead voters. Amendments placed on the ballot by politicians are not included in this rule change. We've seen how difficult and rare it is for citizens to qualify an initiative for the ballot. Yet politicians want to restrict your pathway to our state's Constitution while keeping the road for themselves the same. Amendment 4 will be on your ballot this August 4th, and politicians are counting on you not showing up to vote against it. Here are some examples of successful citizen initiatives that are still benefiting Missouri families today. When Jefferson City politicians fail to do their jobs, the citizens have stepped in and invested in their communities. Whether you did vote or would have voted for any of these, you can see Missourians value self-reliance. We'll need all hands on deck to defeat Amendment 4 this summer. Make sure that you, your friends, family members, and neighbors all have a plan to vote. A lot of voters skip primary elections because we're busy with summer plans or just aren't aware that there is something so important up for a vote. Once you've made your plan to vote, I hope you'll join us to knock doors and raise awareness. This could be a close vote, and turnout may make all the difference between losing our power to petition and maintaining it for future generations of Missourians. Scan the QR code on the screen to pledge to vote no and sign up to canvass with us. We're targeting the 20% of voters who actually show up to vote in primaries so that your efforts in the field have maximum impact. It may or may not be a coincidence that Amendment 4 will appear on our ballots this summer, ahead of the November election. Out of the 6 proposed amendments that we expect to vote on this year, only one of them was placed there by initiative petition, the Respect Missouri Voters Amendment to preserve the petition process.